Drodzy Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome after a short break. We are about to start next panel. Eastern Express. Do the music markets of Central and Eastern Europe working together, they have a chance to become the black horse of the entire continent? So discussion about Poland, about other countries. We have with us Balázs Lieto, who represents Hungary. He's online. Ludmila Cymbal represented Ukrainian Zykes, organization UACRR, Agnieszka Wojciechowska and Rafał Chwała representing the Lublin Festival in Nazwienia, Other Sound and Culture Workshops in Lublin. Rainer Kern will moderate, the director of the biggest jazz festival in Germany, Enjoy Jazz Festival. We're waiting for Agnieszka to join us. She's here. Rainer.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Thanks a lot and welcome everybody to our panel on a very important question. Why is the Central and Eastern Europe music market not as powerful represented in whole Europe as the numbers, the pure numbers, would us make think that it's like that? So, and we have a wonderful panel today. It's representing Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, and Germany. So I think it's covering some part of Europe, and I would like to start with a short introduction of the panelists, with the also with the question again in the beginning already in regards of the theme of our panel. What would you say is an asset in your country, and what would you say is a big obstacle? Because if we look at the pure numbers of growth of the music market in your countries, the Central and Eastern Europe should be the dark horse, as it was mentioned in the introductory text. But in a way it is not. And what do you think is the biggest obstacle? And what do you think also is a big asset in your country? So maybe we start with Ludmila from Ukraine.
Hello, everyone. I think it will be not really common because we have a war going on at the time, and these are extraordinary times for our country. So, of course, Ukrainian creative sector suffered incredible losses, and as many other economical sectors in Ukraine, the whole industry is pretty much on hold. So I can say this. But our creators are fighting bravely on cultural front, and this is on a less tragic but more encouraging note. They cannot perform in Ukraine, or they cannot fully carry out their artistic careers in Ukraine at the moment because they basically can perform only in the bomb shelters where the bombs don't fall on people's heads, or in other countries in Europe or other countries of the world where they showcase Ukrainian culture and raise money for Ukraine and do lots of charity concerts. And in this way, the world is gradually discovering very beautiful, diverse, incredible Ukrainian culture, our strong creators and artists. And our artists also discover new markets because they have to carry on their artistic careers. And I think this is a short outline of the current situation. The impact is devastating, of course, and creators almost do not have the sources of regular income. And this is in a nutshell,
Ludmila, thank you so much. And I think at this moment we should say some words. Although it's needless to say, it's very important to say it again and again, that I think all would agree listening here that we condemn this war that's violating all international laws, and that we stay, and will stay in solidarity with the people in Ukraine who are bravely moving on with their life. And it's unimaginable for all of us how this looks like. And you gave us an idea what it means for a market that was a growing market and that is now stopped by this brutal invasion. So it's difficult to go back to a discussion while this war is going on. But on the other hand, you did a great work before the war, Ludmila, and the creative sector in Ukraine, and you do it right now, which we cannot imagine that you can do it, but you do it. And it's very, very important then after the war that you continue and that you rebuild the country. And so it's also important that we discuss now. And I would like to ask Agnieszka whether she can give us a short introduction of yourself, what your work is, a few sentences, and what you think is one of the assets of the Polish music market, and what you think is the biggest obstacle that brings the market more in the forefront, like a dark horse. Agnieszka, please, floor is yours.
Hello. My name is Agnieszka Wojciechowska. I represent Workshops of Culture in Lublin, and I'm program director of Different Sounds Music Festival, also in Lublin. And I think that we have a common voice with Rafał because we are working together. So at some points, I think that we have very similar observations. But what I have to tell you now is that at the same time, plus and minus advantage and disadvantage is that Polish music market is quite huge, and it's internal, very developed. So there is a lot of options for our artists in Poland, and they don't need to find other options abroad. So
at least some of them, they are like well developed inside the country. It depends also what kind of music they are performing, but yeah, we are talking here about Central and Eastern European music markets as a combined thing, like a combined market. But I think also our markets are various, are different. There are some similarities, but still each country has its own music market. And of course, Ukraine suffered the most because of the Russian invasion, but all of the markets were developing quite fast before the pandemic. And if we would talk, if like Rainer would ask these questions 3 years ago, I would have completely different answers than today, because during these last 3 years it all changed so much that I would really have to. I was thinking about this panel today, what we will say, but the world changed really a lot from 2019 till now, and our music markets, I think Hungary, Czech Republic, Lithuania, of course Ukraine as well, everybody can say the same thing. Germany was had also of course everybody was touched by the pandemic, but now I think that we are in a completely different historical moment than for our markets than, for example, 3 years ago.
But Rafał, can you just say a word to yourself?
Like Agnieszka said, we are both the directors, artistic program directors of Different Sounds Festival in Lublin, which is connected mostly to like wide range of alternative music. And it's in Lublin, so it's east part of Poland. Important element of our festival is always presenting quite a large number of Eastern countries, especially Ukraine, but also Belarus, Georgia, Armenia artists in Poland. So we are kind of like let's say, like a bridge before East and West. We are trying to mix in our lineup the most interesting artists from the region and also from all around the world as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rafa. And just simplify what Agnieszka said. So the USP is at the same time the biggest obstacle. So the USP is the market is great, the market is stable, the market can feed everyone, but why should you then go abroad and look abroad when everything is so fine at home while looking across your borders? So this we can discuss later more. And I would like to ask Balázs to add his point of view from Hungary and also say a word about yourself, please.
Yeah, hello, I'm Balázs Weyer. I'm perhaps what's the most relevant here is that I'm chairing the Music Hungary Association, which is the industry kind of umbrella organization of popular music here in Hungary. I also curate and program mainly word, folk, and jazz events. We run a label. I'm producing music documentaries, radio shows, scores, film scores, and stuff, festivals. And what I just wanted to add, mainly regarding the Ukrainian situation, is that knowing that our colleagues in Ukraine, besides everything else, has a huge problem with the industry obviously having stopped and having no sources of revenue. We try to cooperate with and invite as many Ukrainian artists and professionals as possible. So we, like last weekend, we just finished a festival where we had kind of an Ukrainian day. But that's also thanks to a new funding scheme by the National Arts Fund. That's very welcome, which funds especially invitations to artists from Ukraine. So there are now separate budgets in the state funding schemes for cooperations with Ukrainian programmers and artists.
Thank you, Balázs. So I would like to come back to the contradiction, and then we don't stick with the numbers anymore. But as this was in the introductory text, there's this contradiction that the growth of the CEE market, Central and Eastern European market, and we have to acknowledge what Rafael said, that the Central European market and the Eastern European market are still different, but now we watch them together. And if we only take the numbers, the growth of this market is almost twice as big as the European market itself, and it's twice as big as the global market, and 4 times bigger than the whole European market. So this is the contradiction, as the acknowledgement and the reputation, let's say the acknowledgement, not reputation, in all Europe is not reflected by these numbers. So if we only look at the numbers, I was asking myself, would you have thought, without knowing the numbers, would you have thought this is the situation, that you are so powerful? And is that also reflected in your own country? Can you see it there? You already said, Agnieszka, you already said that the situation is very good in Poland. And is this also the situation for the artists themselves? Or is that just taken by big companies, the growth? And I'm interested in all the 4 of you. So maybe Agnieszka, Balázs, please.
If I may refer to this as well, I wouldn't say that we feel it strongly or we are aware of this, but it's also because the situation is very complex. So the growth is one thing, but I would say from a quite low basis, growth is a different notion on the one hand. Also, these countries, especially Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary, have their own currency, so no euro. And for example, the forint euro rate worsened by 30% in a year. which means that even if we have growth in local currency, it can still be the picture can still be much less positive when we are talking euros. But there are also a lot of other kind of inherited differences. For example, ticket prices, concert ticket prices in Hungary are extremely low compared to Western Europe, which is it's got some historical reasons as well, but also it's because the state has a much bigger role here in the market. So there are a lot of state-run concert venues, even a lot of free concerts in every village or small side. The local government is providing music for the people for free. So it's kind of distorting the market. Obviously, these state-organized or government-funded concerts has much lower ticket prices. So, kind of market players has to compete with that, and also government funding is much lower here, I guess. So if we are discussing market growth, it's I don't even know if we can define what's part of the market and what's not here.
Yes, good point, Balázs. Thank you so much.
And also if we count in forints or euros. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. I'm wondering, so if you have a very stable market and a good market and a big market like in Poland, but of course you still aim to expand your market. So, and of course, when you go from the east through the central to the west in Europe, you will find different situations, as you just described, Balázs. This is, of course, a big obstacle still, although the borders are more or less open. But what are your mechanisms within your work you're doing to break up your silos, I'd say, and expand your market/audience whatsoever? Maybe Rafał and Agnieszka, as you are both the directors of a big festival and having more activities beyond that, what are your mechanisms to break up your silo, the silo you're in?
Our festival is, on one hand, like you said, it's let's say it's quite big for an alternative music festival, but still it's not like huge major festival, because we have 2 or 3 like that in Poland, but we have specific situation. On one hand, we are donated from the city hall. One of the conditions of our festival is that we got this money and it's free for audience. So it's got educational aspect for the audience on one hand. On the other hand, it's one of the few festivals which such lineup that it's free, because in most cases that kind of artists are there's always ticketing for these bands. So we are not maybe typical example of a music festival in Poland. We are somewhere in between, but we are also quite well connected. A few networks that we are working in. So we established some kind of position that and international audience as well that is always present at our festival. So for us, probably situation is not so bad. Also, that we have this support from the city, and we survived last few years. Of course, we did smaller editions, but we did it. So our kind of expansion, getting stronger is quite okay, I think, during last few years. But for the whole market, like you asked, I think Agnieszka said, Poland is a big country, and the situation is good, but not in every genre. Not in every. It depends what kind of music are you playing and for what audience, because it's not equal. Some parts of the market are doing really well, and they can think about expanding their position abroad as well, but some are really struggling right now. So you have to look precisely on what kind of music are we talking, because in general it's not all the same.
Yes, thank you, Rafael. And if you would like to become a dark horse for a movement whatsoever within Europe or even globally, I'd assume it's very important to be connected internationally. It's a matter of communication and marketing, but also connectivity. And I know from a brief pre-talk we had, that Ludmila is aware of the importance of collaboration between the creative markets in the different regions in Europe. And I would like to give you the floor, Ludmila, and to ask you to report about your experience about the international initiative creators for Ukraine, which is a mechanism to internationalize your activities. Ludmila, please go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. The global initiative Creators for Ukraine is a good example of the power of unity of the societies, author societies globally and in the region as well, because it shows that together we can make a difference, really. And united only we can prevail. So basically, this initiative, one of the initiators of this global project was Polish Society ZAIX. And we are very grateful for that. And societies around the globe got together and donated the money to international fund, Creators for Ukraine, that eventually distributed the money to support Ukrainian creators in Ukraine through our organization, NGO UACRR, or those creators who are in neighboring countries at the moment and also require support. And I think that this is a really important and significant step, because it's really important to support creators during the wartime, as they protect our national identity, our culture, and it's truly important to support them at this defining moment, really difficult moment in our history. And I think that getting together and a part of the global initiative, there are local initiatives in the neighboring countries where creators get together and support each other. And on the example of Poland, many creators and artists already recorded songs together or made some collaborations. And I believe that this is mutually beneficial, because on the one hand, you can discover new markets, right? Because the song is released in several countries and you gain new audience, and you can also exchange expertise and your experience. You can share your insight with your colleagues. I can talk about creators, but artists as well from other countries. And I think that this is a key point in the development of our regional cultural market, that cooperation is can bring really positive results. Speaking about Ukrainian market, I can tell that the quality, right, of the musical works is incredible, and we have lots of positive experience and expertise to share with the world. And we would like to learn something from neighboring countries and the countries in Europe and other creative markets. And I believe that on the foundation, this foundation of sharing is really beneficial for everybody. And I would like to also point out that despite such difficult circumstances and difficulties for our creators, not only on the financial side but also on emotional side, right? Because everybody goes through this in their own way, but our creators show incredible bravery and strength, and they keep on creating new works. They keep on supporting our nation and showing our beautiful culture to the world. So yeah, and thanks to cooperation with our international colleagues.
Ludmila, thank you so much. I think at least during times of crisis, you understand the importance of being international, and of course you've been international before, but it's good to hear that it's very powerful, the international connection you're having now, also to support the market and the creatives during this unimaginable time of war. And I think I would like, as a follow-up of what Ludmila just said, I would like to ask Balázs, as you are not only, you are on different sides of the market, let's say. You are a promoter, you are head of a huge organization, you are also dealing with academics, and you are a very experienced cultural manager, and you had a very good introduction about the obstacles. When we're talking, and I think, and you are the darkest horse in the market in Hungary, I would say. So, but if you would like to become a dark horse again, I'd say it's important to have intra-European cooperation. What is your experience when you are having intra-European cooperation? Is it on equal footing, or is there still a West-East colonialism kind of mood? Balázs, please.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a tricky one. I haven't thought of it as colonization, whatever it is. You understand me?
We can forget about that. That was just a picture.
So I haven't thought of it as that, but obviously, especially when we started heavily cooperating with inside Europe, which was like about 10, 12 years ago, when we started our large European cooperations, I had the feeling that simply because our Western friends and colleagues, organizations, they had significantly more resources, it obviously led to bigger roles in any kind of cooperation. And not just resources, also experience, also, self-esteem. That it comes with that. With more experience and more resources, you have higher self-esteem, of course, or higher confidence, higher sense of security. So yes, this can lead to inequalities, but I don't really feel it anymore myself, but I know that it's for a lot of Eastern European colleagues, it's an issue. This kind of feeling one level behind or lower in self-esteem, in experience, in confidence, in resources. So that can create situations of inequality, but it also depends on both parties. So with the right partners, they won't make you feel it, and I'm lucky enough to have right partners most of the time. But for example, now we have been leading a Europe-wide consortium for 3 years that focuses on market development in the Balkans. And I know and I observe that for a lot of colleagues in the Balkans, it's still very much a part of their everyday experience, this kind of feeling left behind. So yes, it's this this exists, but I think it's much. It's a lot less relevant these days than it used to be like 10, 15 years ago.
Thank you, Balázs. This brings me to another point, and I would like to ask all the four of you, if you could pick out one area in your market that still needs improvement, could you please just name this briefly? Maybe, although it's a difficult situation now during the war, but Ludmila, what would you say? One area in your market, you represent collective societies, but still you might be aware of one area in your market that should be improved.
I would say yes, representative of collective management organization. I can talk about the legislative framework improvement because it's really important for creators to have steady sources of income. And it's really important for the further restoration and development of the market to have a steady collective management system so the creators can thrive on their royalties. So I can talk about my sphere in this regard.
Thank you, Ludmila. Maybe now Agnieszka and Rafał, can you name at least one area in your market that needs improvement?
Of course, gender balance, because we had a panel before and the first part of the conference today about it, and it's this type of field that should be improved definitely, and it's one of the most important now for me.
I would also...
I think this is a global problem, yes. Rafał, sorry.
Yeah, sure. I agree with Agnieszka, but also it would be nice if our market would be more stable, especially in some areas connected with more alternative music. But also I would go with...
And predictable.
Yeah. I would also go with basic music education, because sometimes you can really feel the lack of it when you think about the audience choices and the general view of the market. I will definitely improve music education, both formal and informal as well. So I think that's the field that we can work on.
Thank you, Rafał. So we had education, gender equality, and secure income for the creatives through collecting frameworks. Balázs, what can you add from your market? One area that needs improvement in Hungary.
Okay, then I pick something that it's more, I would say, market-like. Basically, it's in Hungary everything is very volatile economically. Tax rules, funding schemes, whatever, everything is changing every year. So every year you have to reinvent your business, which makes long-term planning, long-term strategy is almost impossible. Everything is very unpredictable always. So, like just now, from the 1st of September, in the past years, there used to be kind of a funding scheme for a tax scheme, a separate tax scheme for artists, which was very simple, relatively low tax paid, and now, not even from the 1st of January, but inside the year, in the course of the year, it ceased to exist. So now taxes, income taxes for artists have just became, on the one hand, much more complicated and also much higher. But this is just one thing. So, like as said, funding schemes are changing year by year. And what I mentioned earlier about all these state-run concerts or state-funded free concerts. Yes, for example, if the number of free concerts would decrease, that would make it much more likely to create, a real market where music is not for free.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much that you added another point. And of course, all the 4 points we heard from you are interconnected. They're interdependent. So one is influencing the other. This we can see very clear. And I think, especially what Agnieszka said, gender equality, it's really a global problem still, in not only in the music market, but especially in the music market. It's not reflected on stage what is in the society. And but education is an important point, I think. If you seeking for international cooperation, and you want to be on equal footing when it comes to comparison, and so. But still, when we look at the countries you represent, you have really major music events, annual music events, big festivals that are on very high level from the organizational structure, and also from the infrastructure, but also content, and also internationalism. But still, that brings us to the question: why is the acknowledgement of this work not as much in Western Europe or in whole Europe as it is in your country? And this again brings me back to the question: what is the biggest obstacle in your mind, and what should be done to improve this situation? That you look at the numbers, you look at the quality of the work, then you would immediately understand, looking from abroad of it, oh yeah, of course, that's the dark horse of the whole game in Europe. But in a way, it's not. Although I must admit that in some cases it is, I think. But what do you think, coming to the hard facts, what is the biggest obstacle? State regulation, you mentioned, Balázs, and that leads to free concerts. But again, so I don't want to prejudice it. So what is the biggest obstacle? What should be done for improvement? Maybe, please, let's start with Ludmila again.
In terms of, I'm not a promoter because I can speak about my perspective. I think in pre-war and pre-pandemic time, we had a number of festivals that were becoming more and more internationally recognized and attracted lots of international artists and creators, and were developing in this regard. But it's still really challenging for Ukrainian promoters to do this, and I don't know what kind of support they would require. They know better, but I know that there were some positive developments in this regard.
Thank you, Ludmila. And Agnieszka and Rafał, for Poland and from your field, what is the biggest obstacle that your work and the quality of your work and of your market is not that much acknowledged abroad? And what is the next step to improve the situation?
I agree with Balázs, and I'm thinking about the thing you talked about a little bit earlier on about this equal way of thinking or treatment. I think that the structural government issues are quite important here, because when you think about the Polish market, sometimes pandemic show it really well. The things we are doing were like on the end of the list of needs. So our segment was really not treated seriously, and there was so many questions without answers, and definitely not as much support as it should be for this really big cultural sector. So yeah, that's the one thing. Another thing is probably Balázs talked about it a little bit from the historical point of view. We did have some complex or kind of mythology about Western culture or Western music markets. So we always were like smaller brother. We were looking at the Western music markets and not necessarily focused on what's around. I'm pretty sure not many people in Poland knows well, like Lithuanian, for example, or Slovakian, Czech Republic music market, and it's about time to change that. I think we need to cooperate more, and that's why this meeting is so good, so nice. I think. So yeah, there's still a lot of things to do to make it better.
Agnieszka, you'd like to add something?
Maybe only that cooperation is really key word here, because it's the best way to meet both artists, managers, agents, and cooperate very personally, because we really don't know a lot about each others in this part of Europe, and we are completely different, I think.
And it's an opportunity, of course, to combine our forces, to learn from each other. Like Ludmila said, we had a similar situation before the pandemic. Our market was growing. It went in the good direction, but it all collapsed, and now we are in a different position. We had to think what we can do now.
Yes, thank you. Balázs? Biggest obstacle, and what is the next step to improve the situation? Sorry.
Yeah, but before that, I just wanted to mention that actually I think there is very good cooperation between countries inside the region in niche genres, basically in all niche genres. As far as I'm concerned, in world and folk music, in jazz, in experimental music, even if in electronic music and classical cooperation inside the V4, but not just in whole Eastern Europe. It's working quite well. So I remember when we, in our own kind of world music field, organized the first kind of regional meeting. It was almost 10 years ago. People haven't really known each other, even from inside Poland or in between Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. So that time at the table, everybody was like introducing themselves. But since then, it's working quite well and naturally, and everybody who sat there, they are cooperating on an individual level as well. And as far as I see it, it's the same in the field of jazz. That goes back even later. And experimental music. Well, not in the pop genres, to say it so, but in these genres it works. So what should be done? It partly answers that. I think basically what you can do, it's despite everything, individual drive and in the individual initiative. So people need to talk and start things themselves. Don't wait for the state or for the state to change. It makes things better, of course, if it does, but we can't just sit it out until it does. We need to go forward. Talk and act.
Thank you, Balázs. Maybe we come to the last points. How important? First, I would like to know if you look at the Western market. What can you see there? What is the biggest difference between the Western market and the markets you represent? And my other question is, how important are international fairs? We all take part in international fairs. And Ludmila, there's the Collecting Societies Association in Europe, which is quite important, I guess. So please tell me, if you look to the market you should become a dark horse for, the Western market, what can you see? What's the main difference? And how important are international fairs? Ludmila.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the main difference, of course, is the level of income is quite different, right, in the Western market and in the local markets in Ukraine. Like if we talk even pre-war and pre-pandemic. And what would we do to successfully become the impactful player of the Western market? I would say that we should collaborate with the neighboring countries and creators in the region, team up, share experience, work together, and in collaboration we become stronger, I think.
Thank you. Agnieszka and Rafael, what is the main difference if you look to the Western market? And what is the importance for you of international affairs and conferences, of course?
What we see definitely
Agnieszka,
is big number of well-known artists in this global point of view, more than here in this part of Europe. And our opinion about trades. I think that we have to think about local trades to shake experiences between us, because I think that's very important now. After this discussion, especially, I think
it's always very good to be at this fairs, that this showcases, meet people, because at the end of the day we are all working like people's human factor is very important. Well, it's a human environment. So it's really important to travel, meet each other, but this transition has to go both ways. So from the Western markets, of course, we can get some experience, some tools, some work that's already been done there, so they can share the knowledge. But I think we also have something to offer, like to the other side. If there are sites, maybe to other partners. So yeah, that's the important thing, because each market has their own differences and stronger and weaker sides. So definitely we can learn from each other. And then the dialogue is always the key to the success in this industry, let's say.
Yes, thank you, Agnieszka and Rafa. Thank you. Balázs, please share your point of view.
Trade fairs for me has been the most important tool at the beginning. So that was where you could connect to colleagues, Western Europe or elsewhere, not just Western Europe. So that really helped a lot to start all these kind of cooperations. When you're starting from scratch, you need those kind of gatherings to make connections, talk to people, see, who do you share a vision with, who do you have chemistry with. So it's a very good way to find new partners. I think that used to be really helpful and still is, but at the beginning I don't know if I could start it without that.
Thank you, Balázs. And we might have like 10 minutes left of our discussion. The situation, if you look at markets, and now the markets we are looking at, is quite complex, of course. And I would like to add another point to make the complex situation more complex. But it is a very important point that no one can escape from anymore. It's the green discussion. So we're all living in an environment of carbon zero goal till 2030, 2040, 2050. some cities, the most major cities in Europe, they have announced a zero goal for 2050. And we all know about the Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. So, and all the green discussion is affecting, of course, the cultural work, and especially music and festivals. So there, a while ago, there was the first, in Scandinavia, first concert hall who did not accept any more artists performing in their concert hall who came there by plane. So how is the green discussion already affecting your markets and your work? And what do you think, what is your forecast for the future? Are you already developing strategies? And what do you think can be the role of the music market also in regards of the green discussion? And also, but how is the green discussion affecting the market? Ludmila, maybe you can begin and already see something.
Yeah, I would say that we have other priorities at the moment, and the discussion, the green discussion, is not on the agenda for Ukraine now. But later on, I think we will join this initiative, and we'll think about how to implement the European standards in this regard in our market. But as of now, yeah, our industry is concerned with other matters.
Yes, of course, Ludmila. I would like to ask Agnieszka and Rafael, as since 2012 already, there's an ISO, the ISO 21211, which is for sustainable events. But now, as the carbon zero goal discussion is increasing every day, how is this affecting your work? How is this affecting your market? And what is the strategy for the future?
We are, of course, trying to be aware of the ecology and the pollution. We are, like we said before, we are still not so big as few other festivals. So the level, the scale of the problem in our case is not the main issue, but still we are trying to go one step ahead and find some solutions. We are looking at the others, what can be done with the power. Funny thing is, during last year there were so many problems with airlines that some artists basically came on trains or cars because there was no other way, because some airports were paralyzed because of some reasons. So question is if how it will look like next 3-4 years, and in the short terms of traveling, for example. Of course, there's no other way, for example, to fly, to travel from United States or Canada or Japan. You've got to take the plane. But inside Europe, maybe the world will come back to the older way of travels, like the less emission. But yeah, it's also the super important topic for a young audience, because young people are demanding from the festivals that they would be as healthy, as ecological as possible. So festivals will have to answer to that call as well somehow. So we will see in next years how it will develop. I'm also very interested how it will look.
Agnieszka, would you like to add something? No. I would just like, before we go to hear Balázs' opinion about that, I would just like to add that this ISO I mentioned for sustainable events, the ISO 21211, if you want to see it, this is not only focusing on carbon issues, as the green discussion is very often only focusing on that, which I think it's a big mistake. But if you look in this ISO about sustainable events, it affects questions like you mentioned, Agnieszka, about gender equality, and what you mentioned, Ludmila, about ensuring the income of the creatives, of the artists, but also of your team members, of the workers in the creative industry, in our case, the music industry. So it's much more than you take the train or you fly to the festival. It's about much more things. And I came to this question because all of you mentioned parts of it, I was just wondering whether this plays a role in your market already, and what you think, because in the German market, it's very clear. In a few years, I would assume in 3 years already, you cannot get public funding anymore for your cultural events if you don't have a sustainability certificate, for example. So, Balázs, please go ahead now.
Yeah, that's a very actual question. We started or launched just a few weeks ago a new European network of trade fairs and showcases, which is called Upbeat, and we kicked it off last week in Vienna at Waves Vienna showcase. And this network, among other things, one of the aims is to create a shared, what we call fair trade code that includes issues like sustainability, green issues, gender balance, all kinds of stuff. So it's a fair trade for trade fairs thing, and it shows that it has already become an issue for music industry events, which means that it will very soon become an issue for all kinds of music events, because trade fairs are special music events of kind of internal music events for the music industry. But whatever happens there, it will surely go further quickly to the entire market. And yeah, in terms of artists and tour guys, think it will result like what already happened, for example, in the food market, that the eat locally will become kind of listen locally or consume music locally. So it will increase the number of local artists in the lineups. By local, I mean in driving or train distance, especially train distance artists. But obviously, a lot of this, quick city hopping or flashes for just one concert thing this won't remain. Not just for the financial reasons and because airplane tickets will become higher, but also because this is becoming a moral issue now.
Thank you, Balázs. We heard a huge variety of point of views, and we will close the session very soon. So I would like to ask you one statement at the end, and let's start with our host country representatives, with Agnieszka and Rafał. Just one statement at the end when you reflect the discussion.
Learn from each other, cooperate, and think about festivals not only like a music platform, but also like a great space to make good discussions about future and important matters.
Thanks, Agnieszka. Ludmila?
I would say, like, to summarize what I said previously, unite and share experience and help each other. That would be my message.
Thank you for the solidarity message. And Balázs?
Very similar. I think that this kind of regional cooperation has been very important, and it's becoming even more important. For example, because of mobility issues, but also, I mean, it's got its kind of the cultural gold reserve of what we are doing, because there is a lot of uncovered or undiscovered possibilities in regional cooperation. But well, the whole Europe is not so big, so we can consider ourselves like a region. It's a small continent, even if it's, with deep culture and very deep diversity of cultures, but altogether we are just one region. And it really makes sense. All the time we entered into any kind of cooperation on the European level or on the smaller regional level, we always benefited from that. It's never a bad idea.
Well, thank you, Balázs. We started with Poland, Agnieszka. We finish with Poland, Rafał.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. That's the future. The few years ago, world got really smaller, but now world is changing before our very eyes. So we need to definitely get this local community cooperation stronger and focused as well on that. So that's the future, I think.
Thank you so much. So it's very good to hear from you the old European idea, united in diversity. So I thank you so much, Ludmila, Agnieszka, Rafał, and Balázs. And thanks to the organizers, my very good friends from SAIX, from Music Export Poland, and all the others. Thanks a lot and enjoy the conference. Bye.
Thank you, Rainer.
Thank you.
Thank you.